Hi, first graders. We are going to read The Magic Tree House. When we last left Jack and Annie, they had just landed in Africa, and they are seeing all of these animals. And Annie had found out that there were some animals that were trying to cross the river, and they were not able to, so she wanted to go and help them. And Jack was asking, but where are all the lions? And so now we are in chapter number 3, and it's called Disaster. Come on, Jack, Annie called. She was almost to the river. Just a minute, he shouted. He wanted to study the giraffes and zebras. He pulled out the Africa book and found a picture of giraffes. He read, "The giraffe is the tallest animal in the world. Its legs alone can be 6 feet tall." That is taller than Mrs. Anger's. "And its hooves can be as big as dinner plates." That's like its feet. "The giraffe has a very powerful kick, which makes it dangerous to attack. For this reason, lions tend to avoid giraffes." Jack pulled out his notebook and wrote, "Notes on Africa. Lions avoid giraffes." He turned to the next page and read some more. "Zebras live in family groups. As no two zebras have exactly the same pattern of stripes, every baby zebra must learn its own mother's pattern." Jack studied the zebras, trying to see their different patterns, but in the hazy afternoon lights, all the stripes were making him dizzy. He blinked to clear his head, and then he read some more. "Zebras are the first to cross the river because they eat the coarsest grass. That kind of means like the opposite of smooth. After they've, thick and rough and icky. After they've thinned down the top layer, the wildebeests arrive and eat the next layer. They prepare the grass for the gazelles who come last." Wow, thought Jack. Each animal depends on the one that goes before. He wrote in his notebook. All animals are connected. Jack heard Annie shouting from the riverbank, "Jump, beasts, jump! You can do it! Don't be afraid! Come on!" He looked up. Annie was jumping and calling to the wildebeest. Jack sighed. "I better stop her before there's trouble." He put away the Africa book and his notebook. Then he jogged towards the river. His backpack was heavy and lumpy, bumping against his back while he walked. He'd forgotten to take out the jar of peanut butter and the loaf of bread. Jack decided to leave them at the treehouse. He turned to go back, but just then, Annie's shouting stopped. Jack looked at the river. She had vanished. That means disappeared. She's gone. "Annie," he called. No answer. Where was she? "Annie!" Jack shouted. She had completely disappeared. "Oh, man," said Jack. Their trip had barely begun, and already disaster had struck. He forgot about the stuff in his backpack. He just ran as fast as he could. He wove his way between the grazing zebras and giraffes, and he raced to the river. "Help!" called Annie. What do you think? Should we keep reading a little bit longer? Chapter 4 is called Mud Bath. TH makes sense. Jack looked over the edge of the riverbank. Annie had fallen into a pool of mud near the water. The thick black mud was up to her chest. "I slipped," she said. "It feels like quicksand." Jack threw down his backpack and got onto his knees. "Be careful," said Annie. "You don't want to slip too." Jack pointed to a tangle of old tree roots sticking out of the bank. "Grab those," he said. Annie reached for the roots. "They're too far." "I'm sinking." She was sinking. The mud was up to her neck now. "Hold on." Jack looked around wildly. He saw a fallen tree branch near the riverbank. He raced to pick it up and carried it back to Annie. Only her head and arms were sticking out of the mud now. He held out the branch for Annie to grab it. We are going to stop right there. I think that is a better crazy spot to stop. Do you think that Jack is going to be able to save Annie? I hope so. We'll find out what happens next time when we read the Magic Tree House again. Goodbye, first grade.